I am doing all right. Excited to go over the finishers here. It's been a long time in the making, and a lot of people have put in a lot of work to make this happen. So we're happy to be able to kind of celebrate the top course.
Yeah. All right. So it looks like we're all good to continue. So why don't we go over who were the top 10 first and foremost again?
Yes.
So we have Aberdeen Mining Co. from Waldo. It's a relatively new face doing Tom Doak as his architect. We have Acadia Lodge by B101 or Ben, mainstay in contest doing a Stanley Thompson. We have Watch Me Try to Pronounce Catahoula Hunt Club. Is it Catahoula? How would you
That,
pronounce that, Matt?
I think Catahoula is how I would pronounce it, but I'm
Okay.
also bad at pronouncing things, so maybe that's a vote in the opposite direction.
And that's by Pat Lavar, Pete Dye, and then Glades Branch by Finlay, Corin Crenshaw. You have Jogasaki by Strangy 17 doing Charles Hugh Allison. Maverick Bay by Metatropic doing a Mike Strantz. Penobscot Bay Club by Games Decent or Petty or whatever name he's going by these days, doing a Rainer. Stony Creek Golf Club by Crizzy, doing a Mike Strantz. Winston Hills Golf Club by Golf Wolf UK, doing Perry Maxwell. And Zantport by Petro, also doing a Charles Hugh Allison. So why don't we go straight into the top 10?
Yeah, works for me.
So we're going to start off with Jogasaki by Strangy. And I think a lot of judges thought that, especially the back nine here, was very strong. The course really took off the longer and the deeper you got into it. And as you can see, the closing stretch here was just really, really strong overall. And I think it pushed it into the top 10, but a little bit of technical issues here and there, and the front nine being a little bit less than stellar at points held it back from being any higher.
Yeah, I agree. I think for me, this one had some of the most promise of any of the concepts in the contest. And yeah, the strengths that it has is what propels it into that top 10 over the other kind of group of courses that it was competing with. But it just didn't have the kind of technical execution and had enough kind of sloppy bits that prevented it from competing with the top group of courses as well. But it's a very strong entry, and I loved a lot about it. It's a fun course.
Yeah, it's almost like the closing stretch just really wows you. The rock work around there that you can see there was done really well.
Yes.
So why don't we move on to number 9? So we
Yeah.
have number 9 is Maverick Bay by Metatropic. So for this one, I really loved quite a few holes here. I think hole 5 stands out to me. The par 3 on the coastline is one of the better par 3s in the contest that I really enjoyed. I like the inland points on this course. In terms of going higher, there were some, I think, just some mild technical issues with bunker sculpting, and you can tell I'm being really nitpicky here. Pretty much every course so far in is all did really a fantastic job. So literally just small things at this point.
Yeah, the margins get as you get up into the top 10, the margins start to get really small between these courses. And so it really does come down to, well, they're all good, but I think I like this detail better on this course, and that's the tiebreaker. And I think yeah, Maverick Bay was, right in the mix of things, but I think it had the misfortune of just kind of being like the second best Strance course in the contest.
Yeah,
Like
we're very lucky. We kind of surprisingly, because Strantz is a hard architect to pull off. I think we ended up with two really good Strantz courses in this contest, and the Strantziness and the I have to say Maverick Bay's commitment to the Strantz style of golf did really well overall in that regard, and I think he really did Strantz well proud with this design. So
yeah, I would agree.
All right, moving to number 8, we have Blades Branch by Finlay. So for this one, you could tell there's just some small things, some not fully complete issues on this course. There's some weird sculpting issues in spots, but the quality of it, and then even though the planting was kind of minimalist in between it, he really pulled it off. Uh, in terms of like how minimalist it was, he ended up going with the planting. It still looked really good in spots. I think holes like hole 12 stood out to me, and hole 2, and you can tell Finlay really knows how to do framing on a lot of these holes. I think
Yes.
in terms of holding it back, I didn't get the strongest Corin Crenshaw vibe from this course, to be honest.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, what are your thoughts on this course, Matt?
I agree. Like I most of my points are the same, right? There's like the framing is great, and as a kind of fellow architect who does a lot of like highly framed, minimally planted courses, I can appreciate it. But it did feel like just a touch empty in some spots. And I thought like there were spots where it felt maybe a little cramped, like some of the playing corridors were very narrow, things like that. But it was like it was a great course. It just kind of um it didn't quite shine maybe as much as some of the ones that come above it.
Yeah, I have a feeling if Finlay had a little bit more time with this course, it could have done even better. But you could tell in places where it was really polished, like hole 12 was a beautiful par 3. And then
Mhm.
even like hole 2 was a great like early par 5 that I can just think of just straight up. So yeah. All right, let's
Yeah.
go into number 7. So number 7 is Winston Hills Country Club by Golf Wolf UK. So this is I think another course similar to the last one. You could tell there's some polish issues that didn't seem like he quite got to finish what he started. But I think Winston Hills had some of the highest highs of any of the golf courses in this contest for me. Certain holes like hole 2 early on, and some of the pretty much all the par 5s on Winston were really outstanding golf holes. But looking at the course as an overall package, there's a lot of repeat design decisions with the creek cutting across the playing area, quite over and over again. Some of the par 4s began to feel like they're revisiting the same concept. You could tell that the course just wasn't quite finished in design. You can tell kind of with how good it was in spots that Golf Wolf just didn't quite have enough time to fully polish it up. So that's why it's here, number 7. I think overall it had some of the strongest holes in the contest, but it also had a lot of repeat design concepts, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree. And this is one where it's like the bones are great, and I think in the same way that I, kind of gave that note to Joe Gasaki, I think this is a plot and an idea that has a lot of potential, but the result just kind of like a lot of the holes blended together, and I kept having to revisit this one just to refresh myself on spots of it that I would forget about. Whereas I think, you know, the courses that finish in front of it are a lot more memorable, and I could, recall things about it weeks after playing versus kind of like forgetting bits and having other stuff blend together.
Yeah, I think also just immediately out the gate on the first hole, being able to play into the other fairway of an additional hole, and that those tiny things are just things you catch when you're doing the final like polishing of a course, like the publish error, for instance. Small stuff like that. I'm sure when Golf Wolf republishes or like works on this a bit more, it'll turn into a real gem of a golf course. So
Agreed.
all right, let's go to number 6. Oh, Golfable says 2 publish errors. Oh no. All right. So number 6, we have Zantport by Petro. And this is a kind of controversial one. I think we had some judges that had it a lot higher or a lot lower, depending on who you asked. So I think in terms of golf here, Zandvoort once again had some really high highs. Its environment was absolutely well done in terms of doing the kind of area style he was going after. I think he kind of modeled it more off of a Colt course than an Allison course, though, I just want to say. But I think the main complaint a lot of people actually had were the small greens taking away from a lot of the whole design here.
Yeah, and those were kind of my two main points on this one as well. Was just kind of it didn't have the strongest tie to its inspiration architect as the top five did. And then and then the greens were just a little small, which limited some of the, like the course's ability to shine strategically.
Yeah.
It's still a fantastic course, and obviously a number of the judges really liked it, and even the ones I think who scored it lower, like I don't think anyone disliked this course. It's a solid top 10. It's just it's maybe a step short of the top five.
All right. So let's reveal number 5 then. We have Stony Creek Golf Club by Crizzy. Now, I think for a lot of people, this environment and just the initial setup to this course just wowed a lot of people. I think Crizzy once again really improved, and it's just amazing watching pretty much every course he released being even better than the last. I think Stony Creek really is an example of really him flexing what he can do with an environment, and also just the crazy designs, especially on the front nine, and the immediate like off the gate introduction to this course was really well done.
Yeah, I agree. I really enjoyed this one, and it's been fun watching Crizzy kind of. He's always had a grasp of visuals and framing and that kind of stuff. But his actual design chops have substantially improved over the last couple of years, and I think he's a threat to win contests that he enters now. And Stony Creek was just kind of a fantastic bonkers celebration of Strance.
And I think it almost was too much of a celebration of Strance at points, because
Yes,
I think
Strance is a hard architect to do because, like, in order to go full Strance, you have to kind of make it a little goofy, and so you have to walk the line between making great golf holes and making goofy golf holes.
and I think that he kind of ended up going full Strance on the back nine, and I think there was like a par 3, I think it was 15, where the green and just yes, it was a Strance idea, but the golf hole was literally just a bit too of an extreme example of that not every architect is perfect in all their design elements and styles, and not everyone agrees on what a good golf hole is. And Strance is a great example of someone who broke rules, and the rules he broke weren't always perfect, and it's always a danger when trying to mimic architects like Strance of copying sometimes the worst aspects of an architect. So
Yes, this one gets full points on Strance inspiration, and I think it maybe loses a point or two on kind of the like shot values and things like that compared to the top four. But really, like all of the top five to me really shine in terms of how they like use their design or the designer inspiration on their courses. And Crizzy's just happens to be Strance, which is maybe kind of a less conventional architect.
yeah, it's just great that he chose it. I think a lot of people were really excited when he said he was going to do a Strance. So it's just like, for instance, doing a Parkland in like a design contest. There's certain things that are going to hold you back when picking the architect. So it was just really a blast to play this one, and I can't emphasize how fun it was to play. So
Agreed.
before we go into the top 4, we have some individual awards to hand out, kind of just some things we want to highlight before we move on. And yeah, I'm just going to dive straight into it. So, first, we're going to highlight the best opening hole that the judges thought, well, the judges thought was the best opening hole in the contest. And it goes back into what we are just saying, Stony Creek by Crizzy, hole
Yeah.
one. Just a fantastic opener to the course. It really sets the tone for the wild ride you're about to go on. The extreme downhill first hole with that wild green perched on the edge there. Just really instantly emphasized, okay, this is going to be a crazy course.
It sets the tone immediately.
Yeah. And in terms of just strengths of opening holes, I don't think anything else really came close. It's pretty unanimous vote. So,
Yes.
all right. And moving on, the best closing hole goes to Zandpoort 18 by Petro. I think a lot of the course was very open, and this kind of 18th where it closed in and had this really beautifully set green in right into the clubhouse really set what an finishing or a closing hole can kind of do to separate itself as kind of a crescendo for the whole course. In terms of greens, this actually is one of the bigger greens on the course, and you could immediately feel it, the pin positions, as well as the kind of reverse cambered shot off the tee really left a strong impression. I think it's the strongest hole, like the strongest hole on the entire course personally as well. So you just tell. I think this was also fairly unanimously voted as the best 18. So
Yeah, I agree. It was the highlight of the course for me.
all right, moving on. We have the best par 3. And it goes to Aberdeen Mining Co.'s hole 8 by Waldo. So this course, actually, I'd say most of the par 3s on Aberdeen were in contention for the best par 3. Waldo really did an excellent job with framing all the par 3s. Hole 8 is such an intimidating shot off the tee with the huge bunker up front. And the land movement did a wonderful job at kind of emphasizing the danger. But it's kind of had a lot of the classic aspects of a Redan with its movement, but it just played really, really well. It was a perfect execution of the idea.
Yeah, you kind of hit all the notes that I had on this one. It's a fantastic par three, and yeah, it's a blast to play, and it stands out in a fantastic set of par threes.
Yeah, there were so many good par 3s in this contest, but in terms of replayability, playing this into wind against wind with side winds, this hole just played very differently depending on the pin position, and it just the visual intimidation that Waldo was able to communicate on his par 3s just did such an excellent job for just the emphasizing shots on the course, like how good it felt to execute a lot of these shots. So, all right, moving on, we have the best par 4, and that goes to Penobscot Bay Club, hole 12 by Games Decent. So I think a lot of this course that Petty had kind of going so far was kind of minimal at first, and it kind of was building to, okay, when is this outrageous green site going to show up, or when is there going to be something a bit more bold? And I think when you hit hole 12 and you see this quite an old green site, it just really immediately jumps out at you. And I think a lot of people immediately remember to recall hole 12. In a lot of ways, it is probably the most memorable hole on the course, and in a lot of ways one of the more memorable in the contest, almost entirely for its just really bold green site with the initial shot off the tee.
Yeah, it's a blast. You know, it's yeah, yeah, as you said, it's very memorable. It's very bold. It's picturesque, and it just, you know, it. Oh yeah, and then yeah, just like what Charlie said, it's it's one of the best holes in the contest.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
award for
hits
good
all the
reason.
notes. Yeah, it is visually very stunning. The peek through the trees behind it, so it kind of has the infinity green look. The first shot really rewarding you for going down the left side and taking on the bunkers. There and then the actual contours of the green itself being fairly forgiving if you can get up on there. Uh, to me, it hits all the points of what makes a good par four. So I think this was also fairly unanimously voted the best par four in the contest. So,
Well deserved.
all right. And then for best par five, we have hole seven at Acadia Lodge by Ben, B101. I think there was really two minds about the best par fives in this contest. We ended up going with the hole seven with at Acadia. I think reason being, at least from my mind's eye, is the initial both the initial shot off the tee and then the second shot. It's like the hole is just long enough to really force you to want to cut the corner off the tee. There's kind of initial plateau that you can kind of aim towards, but it would leave you basically a driver off the deck into this green, which is already a pretty intimidating shot. But if you go too far right, you also can end up bringing the trees on the right into play. And the kind of feeding slope into the green can either be a down slope if you're on the left side or a cross slope if you're on the right side of the hole. And then the initial pit, if you don't play up it enough, you end up in the pit short. There's just a lot of different ways to attack this. As Maddie said, shades of 13 at Jasper. Yeah, the second shot, just depending on the angle you get and the winds, just plays really different. And it's so fun trying to figure out how to play this hole because just looking at it, you can kind of go, okay, how far up the slope do I have to aim for this to release onto the green? So there's just I almost feel like I could do a whole video on how this hole plays, and I might. But in general, it's just a really fun hole to play and try to figure out because it's not immediately obvious how to play it.
Yeah, I think just like bouncing along like three woods and drivers off the deck into this green and trying to get it to stick is probably to me one of the more memorable parts of judging this contest. It really stands out,
Yeah,
and
and
it's a lot
then
of fun.
once again, the framing of the lake behind it is very intimidating. Even if that water isn't really in play, no one's gonna hit down there most of the time. I hope not, but just the visual of it is really stunning too.
Brian, you're gonna fall off. Sorry.
Oh, cat.
Yes, he's. I've been a little distracted the last couple minutes. He's feeling very snuggly.
All right, and then we have a best clubhouse in the contest, and this one actually goes to our number 11 course, Groenhof House by In the Style. So we kind of went through and looked at all the clubhouses, including ones outside of the top 10. And I think this one really stood out. In general, I think the color choices and aesthetic really fit the Heathland clubhouse kind of perfectly. It wasn't overstated, and it just really did an effective job.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of clubhouses in this contest. Basically the top couple, all of which where you look at it and you go, that looks fantastic. And then you also think like, okay, what are, like I need to copy some of these things for my next clubhouse, and you take notes. Like anything where you're taking notes like, oh, I need to steal some of this stuff is a good sign. And this one has a lot of it.
Yeah, and I do agree with what Finlay said. It practically looks like a real like building, like a real picture. So it just did such a good job. and one of it is just the color choices just were perfect. So yeah, shout out to Tubman's Run, also a great clubhouse. There were quite a few up there that we're voting between.
Yeah, I think this was one of the harder categories to judge for the kind of bonus awards.
Yep. And then best architect representation once again goes to Stony Creek by Crizzy.
Yeah.
And I think this was kind of a toss up between three courses. I think Maverick Bay, Stony Creek, and Aberdeen all did great jobs at fulfilling the architect that they were basing the course off of. The nod, I think, went to Stony Creek in the end, because I feel like Crizzy ended up going full Strants on his course.
I
By the
mean, I
end.
feel like both of our Strants architects, Crizzy and Metatropic, deserve points for going full Strants. Like this could really be a 1A, 1B kind of thing.
Yeah, because now we definitely have like the two best Strants courses probably in this game came out of this contest. So
Yes.
all right, and now let's reveal our judges before we go out. So we have Axel van Axel von Fersen, Pithy Dr. G, TDO6, myself and Matt, Trail Ducker, and Maddie from Canada.
Hmm. I'm just disappointed Pithy's nickname is not the Good Doctor, but that's okay.
Yeah. So here's the final top four, just as a refresher. We have Aberdeen Mining Company by Waldo. We have Catahoula Hunt Club by Pat. We have Acadia Lodge by Ben, and Penobscot Bay Club by Hetty. And number 4 is Aberdeen Mining Company by Waldo. And I just want to say, Waldo is really a new designer. I had only really played his previous course to this one, and this kind of came out of nowhere for me. I saw it posted, and when I played it the first time, I was just immediately blown away. It really surprised me how well this course ended up playing, and he did a fantastic job kind of making a really dope experience. As I mentioned earlier, I think except for the Strances, Waldo did probably the best job at communicating an architect in this course, and Doak really comes through. You can kind of feel it. A lot of wonderful bunker framing and visuals, and a lot of wonderful par threes. I think the par threes were particularly strong on this course.
Yes. Like my first round of judging, I tried to go through and not look at who the architect was, just to see if I could kind of like if it was immediately obvious to me what they were doing, or if I had to kind of look it up and go from there. And this was one where I just opened it and was like, oh, this is dope. This is Pinehurst number 10. And having been fortunate enough to play it this year, he absolutely nailed it. It hits all of the notes that you'd want, and yeah, as Axel said, this feels like a massive breakthrough of a course, and I think we're going to see Waldo competing for wins in the future. It's pretty spectacular.
Yeah, and I think really the only things that held this course back from being even higher is just a lot of the things of him being a newer designer. He hasn't quite gotten the sculpting down perfectly yet on the bunkers. There's a lot of small technical issues. I think the planting in spots is lackluster, needs a little bit more polish. But in terms of raw golf, this course is just plays so well, and it was so fun to play. Has really bold land movement. I'd say occasionally the fairways might be a little bit too wide in some spots, but so many memorable holes. I think 18 here also was very close to being one of the better closing holes in the entire contest. So yeah, it's just a spectacular surprise course for this contest, and I think yeah, in terms of pleasant surprises, this was the best one in the whole contest.
Yeah, agreed. It was awesome.
All right, now we are moving on to number 3, Catahoula Hunt Club by Pete Dye. Sorry, by Pat LeVar. You can tell. Oh no.
That's how you know he did a good job of
Yeah,
you just
yeah,
associate it with Pete Dye.
yeah. So Pat was actually one of the interesting ones in that he didn't have us judge from the back tees. Because the back tees are a little crazy in points. I'll say there's quite a long par three. But from the blue tees, I think this was a really just all rounder. Environment was fantastic. Whole design. This course really did feel like a Pete Dye style course. You see pictured here, hole 17 was just a fantastic cross hazard par three. It really stood out for me as a good take on like not doing an island green on a Pete Dye course, which was nice. Yeah.
He gets to suggest one without having to, just go like play the hits kind of thing.
Yeah. It was good, even though he did kind of do that on 18 with the kind of the Sawgrass nod. He didn't go full Sawgrass on this course and put some original notes into it too. I'd say the only one fault of this course is that the par fours at the time kind of blended together a little bit too much in terms of how they played. I think Catahoula is all rounder in terms of what it did well. It's just it didn't stand out as much as the top two did. I think the top two courses really stood out a bit more in terms of individually doing something new and exciting.
Yes, I think this one might be my favorite in the contest personally. I'm kind of an evangelist for this club, and I have no issues. Like I think our top two, like they earned their spot, but if it was just up to me, I think this one is an option for winning overall. Like I think it was for me personally, it was there's three options and this is one of them.
Yeah, Pat is just really good at making environments that really feel realistic. I'm thinking back to his Dream Team course. Felt like a real golf course. He's really good at not overplanting it, and you can really feel that here. The work, even though he was kind of rushed at the end, you really tell he put a lot of work into this course, and even the like subtle use of the like line fencing next to the like pine straw layer is just those crazy little details that you get to see when you play through it.
It's kind of a technical masterclass in terms of how to like do subtle realistic design.
Yeah, and I do agree with Golf Wolf. Their 18 wasn't my favorite. Said some of the par fours blended together. I didn't feel outside of 17. I didn't feel like there was a hole that really wowed me as much as the top two did, and I think that's the only thing that kind of held it back between the judges over what separated this from the top two.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So, in a ways, I'm about to reveal both the second place and the winner. So, any guesses before we move on and show the final two? I'll give you like 5 more seconds. Ogopogo says man. Yeah. The surprise non-contest winner. Oh yeah, yes. Cypress Point.
So we're just gonna get all of the joke answers. All right.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yes.
Breton Bay. Got it. All right, so we'll reveal the runner-up then. The runner-up is Penobscot Bay Club by Petty. And I think this is kind of the opposite of Joe Gasaki in that I think some of our judges commented starting to play this course, the front nine was just perfect. Like the front nine on this course in a vacuum is the best 9 holes in the contest by itself. I think Petty did a really fantastic job at representing Raynor here. And the golf was just really, really fun. The more I played this course, it's something about the way Petty designs, similar to Pat in this kind of understated way of his designing. He just does some stuff so quickly and so intuitively. I mean, this was the first course released for the entire contest by like a month before anyone else.
Petty has a deeply infuriating habit of just kind of like going quiet for months at a time, popping up for a week, and just pumping out a design masterclass in about 6 days and kicking it out the door as quickly as he can and then disappearing for a while.
Yeah, the the two par threes, 6 and 10, both really stood out in the green sites. As I said, hole 12 was probably one of the best holes in the entire contest. Just a little bit of a fall off on the back nine with a couple of holes. Like, we're talking like really petty here in terms of petty in terms of like how we decided it between these top two. And just some, I think, in terms of bunker sculpting, there's just some weirdness going on. Like, we really had to dive in to kind of separate the top two. So it's just a petty thing where he kind of pumped it out so quick, and I feel like there's just tiny technical details that if he just gave it like another week or sat on it for a little bit before releasing, he probably would have caught them, and it would have been a perfect golf course. But wow,
it's
one
very
really
much
blew me away.
Yeah, it's very petty in that it's he comes out and the course is fantastic, and like he's gonna come out and make something in a week that's gonna be an easy top three, but also he's gonna make it in a week and it's not gonna have quite the same amount of polish and technical details as the other courses in the top three. So it's like that, the quintessential second place course. It's really good. It just when you're having to nitpick between all of the top 10, that when you kind of just slap together some of the like the what do you want to call it, the finishing details, it's you just kind of lose on tiebreakers sometimes.
Yes. And now, of course, our winner, Cadia Lodge by Ben, Stanley Thompson design. We got one of the highest compliments from Maddie. He's calling it a Stanley Light golf course. So when Maddie called something a Stanley Light, that means you got pretty close.
Yeah,
to...
if you can make a Stanley Thompson golf course and not infuriate Maddie, then you've done something very special.
Yes. And I think in terms of individual awards, it was very dangerous because it was very close. Pretty much there was a hole on Acadia in competition for the best of every individual art award category.
We basically just had to go like, okay, let's like we'll pick it for one, and then it's not eligible for anything else. Like, spread them around.
Just to make sure that it wasn't a clean sweep of individual awards or anything. So, for instance, hole 14 here, the Bound par 3, is framed perfectly, and it's just visually an absolutely stunning par 3. And I mean, in terms of the par 5s, we're both very, like, I think people also really loved hole 12 and 13 back to back, being completely different playing par 5s. And then just, in general, once again, pretty strong course across the board. I think the only complaints were the extremity of some of the cambers, especially on the closing stretch. But otherwise, really fun course to play.
I'd also add, just so that this isn't like a pure praise fest, I think one of my knocks was that the front nine for me, it felt like there's a lot of just we have a heavy left to right camber, and it got a lot of tee shots felt kind of similar to me and blended together on the front nine.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a perfect golf course after all, but I think in terms of top three here, it was very close, and pretty much all the courses here in the top 10 wowed us in one way or another. So that's the contest basically. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you to all the judges. Technically Axel ran this contest, not me. I'm just here to do the streams.
So we're just the face of it.
Yeah. So Axel is the true star here for hosting this contest. Probably
Thank you,
last
Axel.
big contest of this game. So it was just great to see that the design community is still putting out good courses, and that there's still new faces coming in like Waldo. So
Mhm.
once
Yeah,
again, thank you all, and it was absolutely lovely judging this contest. So
yeah, this was a blast. Thank you to all the designers for a contest where we figured that kind of enthusiasm would be a little low. Like the courses that came out of it were spectacular. So
yeah,
it was massive success.
all right, and that's it. We're signing off.
Thank you, everybody.